How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man who saved the life of the child, when steered clear of the mass means came out, mass means crowd. When he took the child and came out from the crowd, he asked the child, where did you come here, child? Whose baby you are? The child wept more bitterly than ever, hearing the question, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. Will you have a ride on the horse? He gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs, and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. Then the man took the child near the roundabout to quieten him. Soothe means to make him quiet. Will you have a ride on the horse? He asked the child while he took him near the ring. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrills. Means the child shouted aloud, I want my mother, I want my father. The man headed toward the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. Listen to that nice music, child, he pleaded, but the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double pitched strain. I want my mother, I want my father. Now, when the child refused to sit on the roundabout and on the horse, the man took him toward the snake charmer, where he was still playing the flute and Cobra was dancing there. He said, listen to the nice music, child. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and he double shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. Would you like a rainbow colored balloon? He persuasively asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed. I want my mother, I want my father. Now, the man took him near the balloons, thinking that the child will quieten to see the colorful balloons, but the child refused to see those balloons and he just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. All of the things that he liked previously, now he didn't want them all. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller said, look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put around your neck? Now the man took him near the flower seller. He asked the child, would you like a garland to put around your neck? The child turned his nose away from the basket and retreated his sob. I want my mother, I want my father. As he heard the man saying this, the child turned his nose from the basket and he repeated his sob. I want my mother, I want my father. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter to the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed. I want my mother, I want my father. Now, thinking about the happiness of the child and to change the state of his mind, the man took him near the counter of sweet shop. But the child didn't like the sweet. He only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. A student, thus the child was lost.